Thank you all for joining me. I'm very much looking forward to talking with you today about the topic of Gonzo Judaism. You know, I've been a rabbi for many years, and I have always tried to harmonize the call of my faith with the call of the wild. And that has led me to some very interesting places and also on some interesting adventures. I have gone dog sledding above the Arctic Circle. I've traveled illegally through Soviet Central Asia. I have trekked through the jungles of Borneo. So it was probably only a matter of time before I wound up in Mongolia. And a few years ago, I did travel to Mongolia with my brother. We hired a guide and traveled through a very mountainous region on the western part of the country, near the other country of Kazakhstan. And we would travel maybe 10, 15, 20 miles a day on horseback, on Mongolian horseback, and their saddles are made of wood and are very, very uncomfortable. So by the end of the day, we were tired and hungry. And our guide would point in the distance as the sun was setting at what looked like little specks that I couldn't quite make out. But as we got closer and closer, they came more into view. Dogs ran out to meet us. People came, and we saw that those specks were actually yurts or gers in the Mongolian language. And we were shown amazing hospitality by these Mongolians every night. They gave us a place to sleep, they fed us, and they had conversations with us through our guide, through our interpreter. Now, as a rabbi, I immediately thought of a very famous biblical passage when I was traveling through Mongolia and having this experience. Does anyone know what biblical passage I might be thinking of? Well, I'll tell you, it's called Vayera. It's from Genesis chapter 18. And in that chapter, Abraham and Sarah are sitting in front of their yurt, their tent, and three strange men, like the three of us in Mongolia, suddenly appear out of the desert wilderness in front of their camp. And instead of reaching for a weapon, which is probably what a man at that time and in that place would have done, I know I probably would have done that, what does Abraham do? He doesn't reach for a weapon, he reaches for a loaf of bread. And Abraham and Sarah welcome these three strangers into their tent. They feed them, they give them water, they shelter them, and they send them on their way. And that radical hospitality, that audacious hospitality, to me is reflective of a very traditional Jewish impulse. An impulse that is countercultural, that is iconoclastic, and that is in my words, Gonzo. Now, the journalist Hunter Thompson was associated with a type of writing known as Gonzo journalism that was brash, bold, and in your face. And I think what we need today is a Gonzo Judaism that is also, like Abraham and like Sarah, brash, bold, radical, and countercultural, and fearless. This is not a new idea. Moses shows the Gonzo impulse when he stands toe-to-toe with Pharaoh and compels him to let the Jewish people go. David, the young David, shows that same Gonzo impulse when he challenges the giant Goliath and is able, through unconventional tactics and even some improvisation, to defeat this much more powerful foe. Or Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, who captures that Gonzo impulse when he critiques his own society for not creating a just place for people to live that does not take care of the widow and the orphan. All of them show what I call the Gonzo Jewish attitude, which is rebellious, radical, countercultural, and not afraid to call truth to power. Now, when I advocate a return to Gonzo Judaism, I'm not advocating a return to orthodoxy. Orthodox Judaism is a modern construct anyway, just a reaction to reform. What I am advocating is not a return to traditional structures, but a return to traditional attitudes, to traditional impulses that, in my opinion, like Moses, like David, like the Maccabees, are radical and rebellious and not afraid to call truth to power and overturn the status quo. That is what I want to talk to you about today, and that is what I think is so needed in our time if we're going to create a robust and dynamic Judaism for generations to come.